Do you find it hard to lead creative people? If so, you're not alone. But today I want to help you out because leading creative people is hard. They don't always follow the rules. They get distracted by shiny objects, and they often have big ideas that are difficult to execute. But when you know how to lead them, creative people can become some of your greatest assets. So in this video, I want to teach you my best tips and frameworks for doing exactly that. And if you stick with me to the end, I'll share one more important bonus tip as well. So let's start by talking about what makes creative people so unique. When it comes to creativity, we all walk a fine line between order and chaos. We need enough structure and rules to maintain productivity, but too much of either can stifle innovation and imagination. Now, it is important to understand that most people are more comfortable on one side of the spectrum than the other. Some of us thrive in highly ordered environments where there are clear guidelines and expectations, while others feel constrained and suffocated by too much structure and would rather operate in a more free-flowing environment. This is why when you're trying to lead creative people, it's so important to keep in mind their personality type and where they fall on this spectrum. Are they more prone to chaos, or do they prefer more order? Once you understand where they're coming from, you can adapt your leadership style accordingly. Now, once you have a good understanding of where your team members fall on the order versus chaos spectrum, you can start to tailor your approach to leadership accordingly. For instance, if you're working with someone who thrives in a more ordered environment, it's important to provide them with the structure and support they need to succeed. This could mean setting clear expectations and deadlines, providing regular feedback and coaching, and creating a safe and predictable work environment. On the other hand, if you're working with someone who prefers more freedom and autonomy, it's important to give them the space they need to explore their creativity without feeling micromanaged. This could mean giving them the resources and support they need to make decisions on their own, trusting them to manage their own time and workload, and celebrating their successes along the way. By taking the time to understand where your team members fall on the order versus chaos spectrum, you can create a work environment that allows everyone to thrive and contribute their best work. This will lead to increased productivity, job satisfaction, and overall success for your team. Another challenge that arises when leading creative people is their tendency to get easily distracted. Now, of course, this isn't true for all creative people, but it is a common trait among many of them. You see, creative people are often natural daydreamers. They're imaginative and curious, and they love to explore new ideas and concepts. This can be a great asset when it's focused in the right direction. However, it can also make it difficult for them to stay on task and resist the temptation to chase after every shiny object that catches their interest. This is where your leadership skills come into play. You need to be able to recognize when your team members are starting to get distracted and gently guide them back to the task at hand. This might involve setting clear goals and priorities, breaking down tasks into smaller, more manageable chunks, or simply reminding them of the bigger picture. It's also important to create an environment where it's okay to take risks and fail. When creative people feel safe to experiment and learn from their mistakes, they are more likely to stay focused on the task at hand and resist the urge to chase distractions. Remember, leading creative people is a balancing act. Providing the right amount of structure and freedom is key to helping them stay focused and achieve their goals. Now let's talk about another aspect of leading creative people that can sometimes pose a challenge: their tendency to get lost in the details. Many creative individuals possess a keen eye for detail, which is an invaluable asset when working on creative projects. However, this same attention to detail can sometimes cause them to become bogged down in the minutiae and lose sight of the bigger picture. As a leader, it's essential to recognize this tendency and take steps to mitigate its potential drawbacks. One effective strategy is to encourage your team members to develop their ability to zoom in and zoom out. This involves teaching them how to focus on the details when necessary, while also maintaining a broad perspective. You can help them develop this skill by providing regular opportunities for them to do just that. By asking them to consider both the big picture and the finer details when making decisions or brainstorming ideas. By fostering this ability in your team members, you will help them become more effective problem solvers and better equipped to handle the demands of creative work. Another helpful approach is to implement systems and processes that help keep everyone focused on the bigger picture. This might involve setting clear project goals and establishing decision-making processes, or creating a culture of accountability. By putting these systems in place, you can create an environment where your team members feel supported and guided, allowing them to channel their attention to detail towards achieving the project's overall success. Now, let's move on to another key challenge in leading creative people: managing their resistance to change. Now, creative people tend to be passionate and deeply invested in their work, which means they can become very attached to their ideas and creations. This can make it difficult for them to accept feedback or make changes when necessary. However, as a leader, it's crucial to remember that change is inevitable and often necessary for growth and innovation. That's why it is essential to lead creative people through change in a way that respects their unique needs and perspectives. To start, it's important to approach change with empathy and understanding. Recognize that change can be difficult for creative people and acknowledge their concerns and feelings about the changes you're re-implementing. This can help build trust and open communication, which is essential for leading through change successfully. Next, it's important to communicate the reasons for change clearly and honestly. Creative people appreciate transparency and want to understand the rationale behind decisions. By sharing your reasoning for implementing change, you can help them buy into the process and see the bigger picture. Additionally, involving creative people in the change process can be highly effective. Their passion and creativity can help generate innovative solutions and ideas for implementing change. By giving them a voice and ownership in the process, you can increase their sense of control and reduce resistance. Finally, it's important to recognize and celebrate the contributions of creative people throughout the change process. When they feel valued and appreciated, they're more likely to embrace change and continue contributing their best work. By following these tips, you can lead creative people through change in a way that respects their unique needs and perspectives, ultimately helping them thrive in a changing environment. And before we go, here's a final bonus tip for leading creative people. Encourage them to take breaks and recharge. Creative people often pour their hearts and souls into their work, which can lead to burnout if they don't take time to step back and recharge. Encourage them to take regular breaks, disconnect from work when they're not on the clock, and make time for activities that bring them joy and inspiration outside of work. By prioritizing their well-being, you'll help them maintain their creativity and passion for their work in the long run. All right, future leaders, now it's your turn to put these tips into action and lead your creative teams to success. And remember, leading creative people is a journey, not a destination. So be patient with yourself and your team, celebrate your wins, and learn from your setbacks. Thank you for watching, and until next time, happy leading.